Hey everyone, Teo here. Today I'm reviewing the Uperfect Delta Pro Touch, which is a dual stack display with two 16-inch IPS LCD displays, each with a resolution of 2560 by 1600, running at 120 Hz refresh rate, and the color coverage is 100% sRGB from what I've measured. First of all, disclaimer, this is a review unit provided by the company. In this video, I'll just present to you my findings so that you can decide whether this is worth the money. And this review will be from the perspective of a visual content creator, someone who does graphic design, digital art, edits photos and videos. And this video is going to be quite long, so if you want to save time, you can check out the text review that I have already written, or just use the timestamps provided to jump to different sections of this video. Shown on the screen right now is how much this display cost on Indiegogo during the crowdfunding campaign, and I have no idea whether the pricing will be different after the crowdfunding campaign. So this is actually one of several dual stack displays that Uperfect is currently selling, and shown on the screen right now are the prices for the other products compared to the Delta Pro Touch. And as the name of the product suggests, this display is not only a touch screen, but it also has pen support. Let me give you the bottom line up front. This is a portable display, but it's quite heavy. It's about as heavy as a 16-inch gaming laptop. The build quality is solid. The matte textured metal body is quite susceptible to fingerprints. This pull-out kickstand is quite useful, and there is no VESA mount. This display supports USB-C video and HDMI, and since there are actually two displays, you can connect two video sources or two computers to the display. Having one extra display is obviously great for productivity, and here you get two extra displays. It is possible to use one single USB-C connection to power the displays and also drive the displays at maximum resolution. However, you will not be able to get the maximum brightness. So if you need the displays to be brighter, you have to connect the displays to additional power. If you use one HDMI cable for connection, there are some limitations. You will not be able to get the extended mode. You can only mirror the displays, and touch screen will not work unless you connect an additional cable to your computer. Visual quality for these two displays is pretty good. The colors are vibrant, the displays are bright and sharp, and viewing angles are good as well. And viewing angles are important because the displays will be viewed at angles. For the downsides, you just have to note the limitations with HDMI. And if you use USB-C for connection, you can only get up to 50, maybe 60% brightness, which is around 160 nits, which may or may not be enough depending on your room lighting's condition. And the other downside or limitation is there is no VESA mount. So if you find this display too low on the table and you want to prop it up or raise it higher, you can get a laptop stand, but make sure the latch of the laptop stand is big enough to hold the thickness of the display, because this display is quite thick. There is pen support, but the pen performance is just good enough for writing and not for drawing. So that is the bottom line. I didn't really see any potential deal breakers. Alright, on to the full review. Let's look at the items included with the purchase. Other than the display, these are the things you will get in the box. There is the power adapter. This is a 45-watt power adapter with USB-C port. Now the plug may vary depending on your country. There are two 1.2 meter long USB-C video cables, a 1.2 meter long USB-A to USB-C cable. This is the pen with a battery inside. Two mini HDMI to full-size HDMI cable, each is 95 centimeters long. Alright, let's take a closer look at the design. Oh, by the way, this is actually a prototype, so there are some minor cosmetic issues, and also the retail product will come with 120 Hz refresh rate, but this review unit only has 60 Hz refresh rate. Just wanted to tell you that. Okay, so the metal is matte textured, and you can see it's very susceptible to fingerprints, so I can't be bothered to clean this as it will attract fingerprints again. Same applies to the back, which is also made with metal, and there are so many fingerprints. So this is the built-in kickstand. I wish this hole here is bigger so that my finger can fit in more easily. I guess it's easy enough to pull out, but it would be easier if the hole here is bigger. This is almost as thick as a 16-inch gaming laptop, and it's also as heavy as one. So on the bottom here you can see 4 rubber feet. So when you prop up the display, the rubber feet will be in contact with the tabletop. There are 5 ports. This is USB-C for power, USB-C video, mini HDMI, USB-C video, mini HDMI. So this set is for the bottom display and this set is for the top display. And if you turn the display to the other side, you will see the controls. So there is a button here, which is the menu button, and this up-down toggle with press so that you can navigate through the menu and press to enter. There are 2 3.5mm audio jack. These grills are for the downwards facing speaker or speakers. The volume is loud, but the audio quality sounds slightly hollow. Let's set up the display. So you have to pull out the kickstand, and I like to have it at this angle because the display is quite heavy. So if you have it at a low angle, the weight may actually push the stand out. The hinge is quite stiff and strong, so if you want to, you can keep the top display at an angle. So this is a good angle, and each display is actually, I'm not sure if you can see it, kind of thick. Alright, so let's connect the cables. There are actually lights inside the ports so that you can see them even in total darkness. Let's talk about connection. So I've just connected this display to my laptop using one USB-C video cable, and this laptop is able to power both displays at maximum resolution but not at maximum brightness. So I have also attached or connected an additional cable to power source. Now if the display is taking power from the laptop has to be connected to a power source as well because it's going to drain the laptop battery quite quickly. Now if you use HDMI video connection, you can drive both displays as well, but you can only get mirror mode. You cannot get this extended desktop mode where both screens will show different content. When you press the OSD button, these options will appear, and I have to keep scrolling through the options because after 5 seconds of inactivity, this will disappear. So the company definitely needs to increase the timer to 20 or 30 seconds. So you can choose the different input source. You can have it set to auto select, which did not work for me for this prototype. So if I use USB-C connection, I have to manually set the video source to USB-C, and if I use HDMI, I have to go into the menu here to set it to HDMI. Now for these 4 options, there is clone mode, expansion mode, sequence, and standalone. So for clone mode, it's basically just the mirror mode where both displays show the same thing. Expansion mode is the extended desktop mode where you get separate desktops that are linked together, so you can move one mouse cursor to the other display. Sequence mode treats both displays as a single desktop, and standalone treats both displays as separate desktops. Right now I'm using the extended desktop mode where the 3 desktops are linked, so this allows me to move my windows to any display I like. If I use mirror mode, then these 2 displays will both show the same content, which is probably not the best way to use 2 displays like this. Let me show you the linked mode or the sequence mode. So let's go into the OSD, scroll down and choose sequence. One thing I don't quite like about switching between video sources and switching between the different modes is it takes some time. So this is how much time it takes to switch between video sources or the different modes. So now these two displays are in linked mode or sequence mode, where it's just one desktop. So if I open an app, the app will fill both displays. So let me just open this web browser and maximize it. So it's actually running across both displays. And if I play this video and have it full screen, it's going to have that full screen across. I don't think it's ideal to run a single desktop this way because this gap here is huge and it's cutting my face with this black bar or space. But this is an option for you if you need it, and this feature is built into the display itself. So you can use this feature with Windows, macOS. With two displays in extended desktop mode, you can show two different workspaces, and certain apps can actually take advantage of two different workspaces. For example, with Adobe Lightroom, I can show the thumbnails on this display at the bottom and show the bigger photo on the other display. And with certain video editing apps, you can show all the controls on the bottom display and have the video viewer bigger on the top display. Visual quality for this display is pretty good, and the colors across both displays is quite consistent, similar. So the colors are vibrant, and I measure color support for 100% sRGB, 83% Adobe RGB, and 88% P3. The brightness is pretty good as well. Our maximum brightness is 260 nits. If you do not connect the additional power cable, then 50% brightness is around 160 nits. While this display can be used with macOS, there are certain limitations. The touch screen doesn't really work as expected. So if I use my finger now, I can move the cursor there, but I cannot move the cursor from that display here. I have to use the touchpad here to move the cursor here before I can use the cursor here. And I am not able to use the extended desktop mode or the one desktop mode for some reason. And this 16-inch display with 2560 by 1600 resolution is not a good combo for Mac users. If you want to use this screen size and resolution, you may have to use an additional app called Better Display in order to display the visuals here sharply. Because if you use the macOS display options there, the UI will either be too small and sharp, or it will be big and fuzzy. And these are the different display modes available for the various OS. This screenshot is from the PDF menu. There is slight pixelation from one arm's distance away, but the pixels are not as chunky compared to what you can see on a 16-inch 1080p display. So the visuals to me look pretty sharp. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there is a blemish on this prototype display, and this blemish is below the glass. Anyway, Uperfect says that if you see blemishes like this, you can ask them for an exchange. But I'm not too sure about the dead pixel or stuck pixel policy that they have. Anyway, for the two displays that I have here, I did not notice any dead pixels. If you press the directional toggle, these are the options available to you. So you can adjust the brightness, contrast, black equalizer, game mode, saturation, hue, sharpness, display rotate. There is no auto rotation. You have to rotate the display manually if you want to rotate the display. And once again, I have to scroll through all these options really quickly because the timer for this is 10 seconds. So there is HDR mode, which is not true HDR, eye protection, 3D sound, crosshair, source. You can choose the source here as well, interesting. Language, aspect ratio, volume. This display has pen support, and this is the included pen. The build quality is quite solid. It may not look like it, but there are actually two buttons here. The shortcut for the side buttons will vary depending on which app you use, and most drawing apps on Windows do not let you customize the side buttons. The pen supports pressure sensitivity, tilt sensitivity, and there is palm rejection. I'm not sure what's the pen protocol that's used, but if I have to guess, it's probably USI 2. And this pen is powered by one single battery. This is AAAA. There is no eraser at the back. Okay, so let's write. Notice the missed stroke there. Notice the missed stroke again. So palm rejection doesn't work that well. When I rest my palm on the display, sometimes it doesn't write. But if I lift my palm off the display, notice now it writes well. So this is tilt. This is the thin brush, and if I tilt the brush, it's broad. This is the usual amount of latency. Let's undo. Finger gesture shortcuts work. Let's rotate and zoom. Yep, works fine. Time for the diagonal line test. I can see slight wobble and jitter. Initial activation force is low, so I can draw thin lines quite easily, even with this thick brush that I have. But there is definitely diagonal line wobble and jitter, which will affect accuracy when drawing. Strokes are able to taper quite nicely. This is good. Line transition from thin to thick is smooth. Right, let's draw something really quickly. I'm just going to draw, myself. Okay, I like the thin and thick lines. And even though there is the diagonal line wobble and jitter, when drawing at my usual speed, okay, notice the missed stroke. I wanted to draw a line, but the line did not appear. That's because palm rejection does not work consistently. So as I was saying, even though there is diagonal line wobble or jitter, when drawing at my normal speed, I don't really notice too much wobble or jitter. The main issue here with drawing is palm rejection doesn't work consistently. And for this app, finger gesture shortcuts do not work. So I have to either use the keyboard for keyboard shortcuts or use the shortcut buttons there. So if you do not have the keyboard, certain drawing apps will be really inconvenient to use, especially those drawing apps that are designed for desktop use with keyboards. Sometimes when you rest the palm on the display, it works. Sometimes it does not work. And when it doesn't work, it's quite irritating. I think for drawing purposes, for casual drawing it's fine, for writing it's fine. It's just that you can't really rest your palm on the display even though it supports palm rejection. Now for this app concepts, because this app is designed for touch interface, if I make any mistakes, I can just undo. Oops, undo again. Yeah, I just can't place my palm on the display for drawing. Anyway, this is not a display I would recommend for drawing purposes, even though you can draw on it. The main selling point for this Uperfect display is the dual display setup. The very common use case for a dual display setup is to have your reference on one display while you are working on the other display. So this can improve productivity dramatically because you don't have to keep switching your window from your drawing app or whatever app you're using, going back to your reference and come back again. So that's how a dual display setup is very useful. I think I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to say about the Uperfect Delta Pro Touch. So is this worth the money? Well, it really depends on the type of work you do. So personally for me, having just one extra display already provides a good boost to my productivity, so I don't really need two extra displays. However, for those people who need two extra displays, well, there is such a product that exists, so this is something you can consider. And if you have intention to get this display, you can check out the links that I have for you in the video description below. I hope this review is useful. See you guys again. Bye.